How y'all doing today? Pumped up. I like it. Great to be here. Hey, my name's Chris, and this is my wife, Tatiana. Great to be here. Hey, also want to welcome anyone who is here joining us online. Thanks for being here. It's great to have you. We are in week 5 of our series, It's Complicated, talking about relationships. The past 4 weeks, we've talked about financial unity, managing expectations, forgiveness, all sorts of stuff, parenting, a lot of different topics on relationships. And but before we get into today's topic, we got a couple of jokes to get us going. So take it away, Tati.
Okay. Well, we were going to do the Hallaren thing and make a competition to see who could come up with the best jokes until like this very moment. But we're also best friends, so we just shared it ahead of time. So, but it's a competition still, so just keep that in mind.
I like it. We were going to see who can make the other person laugh, but we held back. We'll probably laugh anyways. First one we dug up was, these are the best 4 jokes on the internet on relationships, so just brace yourselves. Had a nice chat with my wife today after our Wi-Fi went down. She seems like a nice gal. Internet.
Arguing with your partner is like trying to read the terms of use on the internet. Eventually, you just give up and say, I agree.
Those things are long, man. Has anyone actually read a whole one of those? I don't think I have. So, anyways. I once gave my husband the silent treatment for a week. When it was over, he said, we got along really well there for a little while. We were like reading these in our kitchen, like I think it was Monday night or something like that, and Aurora like came in while we're like reading them and laughing to each other and stuff, and she's like, all these are like way over her head, and she's just sitting there like laughing her head off. I'm like, Aurora, you don't even know what we're talking about. That was probably the funniest part of us reading these jokes. Yeah.
For him, okay. This one's probably my favorite. When your spouse gets a little upset, just remember a single calm down is all it takes to get that person more upset.
It works every time.
It works every time. Anyway, so today we have the impossible task of taking you from being a young single all the way up to retirement in hopefully about 30 minutes. And we're going to do our best to deliver a few points that might help you guys wherever you are on your journey. So Riley asked us to share this message because clearly we've been through all the transitions of life that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to have a photo up here. Not that important. So this is like a 20-year-old pick because we're like in the empty nester season right now. This is why we're so ready for this talk about managing transitions. But we're talking about seasons, not like seasons of the year, but seasons of life. Like in Ecclesiastes 3:1, it says, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under the sun."
Awesome. So our first transition we're talking about today is going from single to married life. And our first point we wanted to bring up to you guys is it's not all about you. I know a lot of single people think it is, and I think probably every single person does. But you get married and you're like, oh, I guess I am kind of a selfish person. Marriage kind of helps uncover that. But, especially in our culture, there's so many like teenagers, young adults, even adults, pretty much anyone in our culture. It's all about what can I get for myself. You see so many teenagers, young adults like dating around, just okay, well, this person doesn't really do it for me. I'm going to move on, see what I can get for me. And if that's your main goal, getting what you can get for yourself, you're never going to be satisfied. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think through all these transitions, one huge theme that I was seeing as I was just kind of looking through them was if you can make it not about you, you'll find a lot more fulfillment than if you make it all about yourself. So if you're looking to see what you can get for yourself, whether it's being single, whether it's being married, whether it's having kids, grandkids, if you make it all about yourself, you will never be satisfied. So just take that and so while you're, and one thought I had too, like going from single to married life, when you're in that state of singleness, you're a teenager, young adult, wherever you're at, we're all called to, if we get married at different times. Don't make it like your life goal to be married. That's not like the finish line for life. You can do a lot of great things for the Lord during your teenage years, during your young adult years, and don't get hung up on, I need to find this person right now. And, just wait on the Lord and His timing, and use that time. You got so much time when you're a teenager, when you're a young adult, to serve the Lord, give your life away, and capitalize on that. And it was a great. I love that season of life. I love this season too. I loved all the seasons. I think that's a great theme. Learn to enjoy every season, because there's good and there's tough times of each season, but learn to don't just dwell on the bad parts, but enjoy where you're at. Don't get hung up on looking back, looking ahead, and be where you're at while planning ahead, but be where you're at as well. A famous marriage section on the Bible, Ephesians 5:33, says, "Let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let each woman see that she respects her husband."
The commands we're given in these passages are contrary to our natures as men and women. Women value women value love and nurturing more, while men value respect more. So it's almost as if God is saying, if you want this to work, you must live serving, studying, learning, loving the other person, and just to remind you of how much you're both going to need me. My clearest admonition on marriage is going to be so contrary to how each of you work that you're going to have to live in dependence on me. So this is why it's so important to keep dating your spouse, especially in the marriage to kids transition or season, because it's very easy to let your spouse slip through the priority list, and you can catch yourself in the empty nester season looking over to your spouse and not recognizing who they are because life happens.
So I was thinking about love and showing love to my spouse this week, and we had some great conversation. Like, what does it mean? When do you feel loved? When do you feel respected? Stuff like that. And it was fun just kind of talking up this message this week and thinking that through. And thinking about when you love your wife, she wants to feel like you see her, and not just like glance at her every second, but what's going on with her. Kind of how her mood's doing, if she's feeling good, if she's feeling bad, if she needs a hand with something. Don't just come home from work, check out, sit on the couch, pull out the remote, chill. Like, don't clock out when you get home. You're a part of the team, and show her that you can see what's going on. You can tell if she's had a rough day, if she's had a good day, if she's excited about something. You're kind of like in tune with her. I think that's a huge part of loving your wife, because that's not naturally what guys do. They're like, you know what, I'm good, I finished I clocked out, I'm ready to just go home and do nothing. Like, don't do that, okay? Show her you can see her, you know what's going on with her. Think about the way God loves us. God, He doesn't just love us when we're doing what He wants us to do. He loves us no matter what, and we need to give our wives that same grace. 1 Corinthians 13 just has a great list of definitions of love. Love is patient, love is kind, it's long-suffering. Just look through that list as a husband and, pick where can I grow, where can I, love is patient. That means you're not harsh with your wife, you're not quick-tempered with your wife. You give her grace. It's easy, I think, especially for guys, to get angry quickly, to get harsh, when we don't get what we want, we don't have things our way. And just learning how to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, I think is a huge goal that we should have as husbands. And we definitely need God's grace to do that. And I just love the verse at the end there about love, or the verse in the Bible that talks about love covers over a multitude of sins. And I think that's huge. I see spouses so often trying to just jab at their spouse, oh, you did this, you did that, making fun of them in front of other people. You're on the same team, love your spouse, make her feel valued.
Yeah, so just thinking about the way that God loves us and shows us love, especially for a woman. As we were talking this week, I thought of a story, and I don't remember where I heard it or read it, but it's true. Yeah. Possibly. Anyway, so there's this woman walking on the beach, and she's just really contemplating, does God really love me? And she'd been going through a rough few seasons, and as she's walking, she has this thought, man, I've just never seen a starfish. And she loves the beach. And so as she's walking, nearing the end of her walk, there's a bunch of rocks on the side, and she can't go through the rocks, so she has to go around. And as she goes around the rocks, on the other side of the rocks is not one, but hundreds of starfish. And in that moment, she felt seen, she felt heard because God saw her heart and her desire. And in that same way, men can do the same thing, not perfectly, but they can do the same thing that God does for us. So some respect examples. One thing that I thought about is don't treat your husband like a child. They don't want you to be their mom. They're gone. They're not in that house anymore. So don't belittle them. Don't talk down to them. Don't give them these options or choices like if they were a kid. And then don't talk badly about them behind their back. I mean, life, you're going to argue with each other, or as we call it, we have it called discussions. They're not arguments. It's the healthy way, I guess. But if you're upset, don't go behind your spouse's back and just, speak life into them, even when they're not right in front of you. And then one thing that we both really love doing is get excited for the things that interest your spouse. So whatever interests your spouse, try to have effort to also show interest to. So Chris, I don't know if any of you guys know this about Chris. He's a huge football person for a team called Patriots. And
6 rings, no big deal.
I know. It's okay.
A lot of jealousy in the room. Bills have been 4 times, man. That's decent.
So you see what I have to deal with here. But he really shows interest for that. And so, I wasn't a football person when we got married. I don't know that much about it, but I took an interest in it just because he took an interest in it. I'd ask questions at appropriate times during the game to learn more. Guys don't like that. To learn more, and just even sitting and being present with him was just a way of showing respect and saying, hey, I see you. And this works the other way as well, from men to women. I like doing home improvements, and Chris will go ahead and help me with some of those. I cast vision, and he hears me, and sometimes does it, and it works. So I like it.
Yeah, I think that's huge in marriage. Is like, don't just be roommates, don't just like pass each other in the hallway, but like do life together and find things that you enjoy doing. You're not gonna love doing all the same things together, but like I was thinking about it this week, like I'd rather do something I kind of like to do, but do it with Tati, than like do the thing I love doing, but doing it alone. Find some things that you can do together to build that just team and on the same page. And if you can't laugh together as a spouse, like it's gonna be a long life. Like you gotta have some times where you just have a good time together, and like it's your best friend, or it should be. And I think a lot of times in marriage it's not. And Tati is one of my best friends, and I love you so much. So. But anyways, I like doing stuff with her. Genesis 2 verse 24, it says, "For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." And after we get married, it's not about I do my 50%, she does her 50%, and it's about we're never going to do it perfect, but we want to give our all. Whether it's to the Lord, to our spouse, we just want to give our lives away, and that's where you're going to find life. It's kind of like counterintuitive, like definitely not the way the world thinks about it, but when you give your life away, you get it. And the world's all about, let me get what I can get. What can I get from me? But if you give away, you find life there, which it almost doesn't make sense, but it's true. Like I know my best days are like, man, I know I really served Tati today, or I gave my life away for her and for others. Like you come back from like a serve day, and you're just like pumped up, man. You're just like, man, I just gave a couple hours away from my city, and I got life out of that. It's just like when we give, we get, and that's where we find our life, not collecting as much as we can get for ourselves. And again, it's a partnership. We're on the same team. It's not like let me poke holes at my spouse and like tell the world where she's messing up, but like cover that. Love covers. We're on the same team. We're in this together. We're not on opposite sides of the table. We're on the same side. We're working together here. And that's huge. There's going to be a little video playing in the background just for your guys' enjoyment as we transition from married to married with kids. This is us just hanging out. It'll come. Anyways, it's me chasing around my kids with the ball. They literally will meet me at the door when I get back from work some days and hand me this ball and be like, "Daddy, chase us." So they asked for this. This isn't like
It's a softball,
yeah,
you
it's
guys.
a softball. It's a little globe thing. Sometimes they bring like 3 or 4 and they're like, "Daddy, take all these and chase us
Just go
around."
in.
They'll do this for like 2 hours if I had enough energy to keep going. But anyways, just a little peek at what we do for fun sometimes. And you gotta have some fun with your kids, man. If you're not having some fun with your kids, it's gonna be rough. So one fun story that I thought of this week, I'll throw it back to when we found out we were having our first kid, was Tati found out we were pregnant with Aurora right before Valentine's Day. So she actually waited to tell me till Valentine's Day. And she did the scavenger hunt all through the condo, and the last clue led me to a onesie that said "Daddy's Little Patriots Fan" on it, and that was pretty fun. So that's how I found out I was gonna be a dad right there. But that was just a cool memory right there. But as we were talking about kids, one of the keys is disciplining yourself so you can train and discipline your children.
Yeah, so when it comes with married with children, you're going to want to remember these 3 C's for this season. And the first one is consistent. Make your words reliable. If you say something and your child disregards, there has to be a consequence, like a previously established consequence or consequences that are applied every single time. So, but not in anger, but in resoluteness and firmness. So if you, when your child does something, because it will happen.
No.
Not with our kids, obviously. Um, you go ahead, if you're angry, which is going to happen, just either send them to the room, send them away. Take a few minutes to yourself to go ahead and discipline yourself. Get yourself at peace so that you can go ahead and discipline your child the proper way, that you would, the same way that God disciplines us, not in anger, but in that same way. The second C we're going to talk about is control. So who's in control, you or your child? God didn't create a system whereby children raise themselves, and that's why he uses the analogy of family. I mean, God is our Father, and he knows what's best for us, and so we must obey when we don't understand. We must eat what we don't care for, do tasks we don't like, be still when we want to get up and run, like right now, and be quiet when we want to speak when we don't want to, not take things that don't belong to us, resist urges that we feel like engaging in, not because God is mean, but because he wants the best for us, and he knows what's best for us and what will lead to unwanted results. So just a practical application of this control aspect here is we have a gate at the bottom and at the top of our stairs just so our youngest Declan won't go flying down it, just to help with that. And that's just a practical, like, physical application for a boundary that's good. But control and boundaries, mentally and spiritually for your children, are also very important during this time as well.
And the third C that we got is character. And teaching your children character is just so vital, man. So many kids growing up these days, no rules, no character, they just kind of do whatever they want, and it's just not good. Kids need to know that sure, they're the apple of our eye, but they're not the center of the universe. And the world does not revolve around them. And you see a lot of kids these days who think it does. I'm like, kid, your parent needs a little, they need to hear this message. But anyways, we need to teach them, how to work, how to do the right thing when no one's looking. Those are definitely a couple of things that I'm just so grateful for my parents teaching us. Self-control, the fruits of the Spirit, love, patience, joy, all those. Like, we need to show them what the right thing to do is, what each situation calls for. Self-control is so huge, whether it's like teaching your kid how to go to bed on time, whether it's teaching them how to, with money, sex, like, there's so many different areas where self-control is just so vital in training your children. I know a huge thing in our house growing up was obey first, ask questions later. Like, so many kids, you tell them something, they'll be like, why? Our kids definitely do it too, but trying to teach them, hey, you need to listen first, and then I'll explain to you after why I asked you to do this. It's easy sometimes just to throw a tablet to your kids, or throw on the TV, and, there's definitely a time for that, but don't let that be your default all the time. Just get out of my face, go do your thing. Like, take time to train your children. Let them see you doing the right thing. also be okay with saying you're sorry when you don't. Like, show them character. The world is not about you. Philippians 2:13 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit." We're not entitled to anything. Basically, is what that verse is saying. And you see so many kids just walking around like they're entitled to everything and they haven't worked for anything. You're like, that's not how it works. Like, responsibility and or privileges go together. They're not one without the other. Um, so one thought as we transition from younger kids to teenagers, is diligence with young children is king. Like, you just got to be on it. You got to keep doing it, keep training. But wisdom is so crucial with teenagers. We don't actually have any teens, so that's it for today, guys. Thanks for coming. Just kidding. Definitely called my dad this week. I was like, "Dad, talk me through how you survived me being a teenager." But anyways, teenagers, it goes a lot from training to coaching. Like, that's one of the key shifts. When they're 5, you can spank them, tell them no, blah blah blah. Their attitude switches around quick. But with a teenager, it takes a little more time. Like, be okay with slower course corrections, slower attitude shifts. Teenagers can be a little moody. I remember being one, so you just kind of get stuck, in your mood or whatever. But yeah, just be okay with slower transitions. Like, it takes a little time for you to get the respect back sometimes after you correct them. But yeah, that's so key. Just like coaching instead of just like telling them, like directing them when they're going into those teenage years. You shift from protecting from injury to protecting from hijacked values and hearts, and that's so key. Like, someone's gonna have their hearts, and you want it to be you. One story that I thought of this past week while I was a teenager, my parents were really good at this. Was I remember my older sister and I, Abby, we wanted to go to a movie. I don't even remember what it was, but my parents were like, "I don't think that's really a great movie. I don't think you guys are ready for that. Shouldn't go see that." And I like vividly remember my dad saying, like, you guys are old enough, you can go if you want. I think I was like 16, Abby was 18 or something. And they were like, "You can go, but I would advise you not to." And I just like really respected the way he said that, and we ended up not going. But it was just like a neat way of him like shifting to that coaching instead of just like, "You can't do that, don't yell at your teenagers, don't just get harsh with them, have grace and just kind of guide and counsel instead of just like talking down to your teenagers, because they're becoming adults and like we need to see that as parents."
Yeah, so Proverbs 13:20 says, "Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm." And then also First Chronicles 15:33 says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals." So just make sure your kids are, that they're surrounded by friends with good character as well. That's good to keep in mind. And just remember also that they're older than you think that they are. Treat teenagers like they are young adults. Know what's worth fighting for. Don't pick, don't pick at every little thing that they do. They're supposed to be gaining independence during this time, so don't fight over every little thing that they do, like what they wear, or just give them some of that freedom in some of those areas. You just have to figure out what those areas are for you guys. And now we're going to move from teenagers to adults. So this has been it's a subtle shift, but it's been one of Chris and I's most fun and life-giving transitions, becoming friends with our parents. I know the teenagers are like, "Oh, okay," but it's gonna happen. Sure, friends, it's gonna happen. You'll end up calling your parents like 3 times in the day, and they don't pick up the phone call, and you're gonna be upset. You're gonna be like, "Who could be more better than me right now?" Like, pick up the phone. And then it's funny how kids will look up to their parents as they get older. So like when you're paying for your own bills, you'll like catch yourself becoming your parents. You're like, "Who's leaving all these lights on? Why is there so much toilet paper being used? Why is the water bill so high? Shut off the water."
Another COVID could hit. We need all the toilet paper.
All the toilet paper. But yeah, this transition, parents, you're going to need to let them learn to live with their own decisions and exhibit restraint. with input. So, like, don't be afraid to step in if if a decision could sidetrack their future, but remind them that you are preparing them for independent living. And then once it's achieved, you'll respect it. So that means as long as they're living under your roof, they're going to abide by your non-negotiables. So just figure out between you and your spouse what those non-negotiables are going to be, and then while still keeping in mind that they are not children anymore and that they are young adults.
Yeah, this is kind of similar to those teenage years. Like it's just kind of a little further down the road. Like again, they're becoming an adult. They are an adult now as a young adult, which is crazy. What? They're an adult when they're an adult? So, but anyways, and like I said earlier, like we have to know that someone's gonna have their heart as a teenager, as a young adult, and whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, like someone's gonna have their heart. And as a parent, you want to have their heart, until they move on later in life and get married and all that kind of stuff, and then give their heart away. But like you want to bend over backwards, kind of in a sense, to be able to keep that relationship. Like keeping that relationship is more important than winning a fight. In a lot of instances, like pick, like Tati was saying, like pick your battles. Like don't fight over everything, especially as they're moving into those adult years of life. Maybe they're still at home or they moved out recently, but like bend over backwards to make things work with your adult children, and just invest there. It's not naturally going to happen. Like if you're in your 50s, 60s, whatever, and they're like 20, or somewhere around there, like you don't have a ton in common. So like making excuses to hang out with them, go grab meals together, check in with them, what's going on, and just let them know that you got their back and you're there for them, I think is so huge. Shifting from that boss input to mutual input, like we're both in this together and we're both trying to help you learn who you're meant to be, and all that, I think is crucial.
All right, now we're in nest to empty nest. Anybody here in that transition right now? Anybody? Okay, cool. We have a cool tip for you guys. If you want your kid to call, because chances are they're probably not calling during this season, here's what you do. You change the Netflix password. They'll call you. You change that Netflix password and they're going to call you, okay? This transition, we obviously are not in, but we did call our parents who have been in this, so we got some feedback from them. But this transition can be very bittersweet. And something that helps with that is knowing that your kids are doing well. And the two biggest gifts you can give your children is, one, having an authentic relationship with the Lord and allowing them and showing them that and just being a part of that. And then two is showing your children how to have a godly-filled marriage. So like we said, don't stop dating your really hot smoking spouse. But this season is a time when putting a grammatical period can be helpful. And what I mean by that is by putting a period on an ending. And so a run-on sentence is not clear, and it can start to blend together. And this tip can be used for any transition in life, but this period should allow you time to remember, reflect, grieve, and to celebrate. John Dewey said, "We don't learn from an experience, we learn from reflecting on an experience." So allow yourself that time to do that, to have that period, and you don't glean as much when you don't pause and see what God has done for you in your life and what he's planning on doing as well. So also at this point, you're going to want to prioritize more than ever. Invest in those family relationships. For your offspring who live out of town, make it a priority to go visit them once a year. I mean, if you're both still working, just make sure you're taking that time and setting it aside to go ahead and visit them. And then embrace generosity with forgiveness, time, money. People and relationships prosper in environments built on generosity. So our parents, they just gave us a hot tub and a ping pong table, so they figured out this generosity thing pretty well.
Juan and Mabel are way too generous too. So
Yeah,
just
they
generosity
feed us
all around.
every day, pretty much. Those are my parents. Another thing is look back occasionally, with photos, mementos, and making memories is wasted if you don't look back on them, and don't stop making memories together as well.
I love it. And our last seasonal shift that we're going to be talking about is from work to retirement. And I was just kind of thinking about that this week. I'm actually talking to my brother-in-law, Stephen Fletch. He's like a financial advisor, and I'm going to ask him if we're ready to retire yet. So we got a couple thousand in the bank. We're probably
We're
about
not.
there. Just kidding. Anyways, we got a long way to go before we can think about that. But in my house growing up, my dad was always like, "I'm never gonna retire." Like retirement's like a cuss word in the Hallaren house. Like you're gonna work till you die, just 'cause work's fun. So, just kidding. We'll see if he does it. But anyways, we were thinking about retirement this week, and I was like, man, so how old is old?
Whoa,
Just kind of like,
whoa.
sorry.
Careful.
So the good news is I figured out old is just 10 years older than you are, so you'll never be old. You're
We're all
good.
good.
So, anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. Don't have to worry about getting old ever again in your life. But I was thinking about empty nesting versus retirement, and I was like, I feel like generally speaking, not always, obviously, but empty nesting can be a little bit more of a hurdle for a mom, and retirement a lot of times can be a little bit more of a hurdle or like a shift for a male. Yeah, I was just kind of stewing on that, thinking on that a little bit. Even like with the curse, talking, when men fell, like childbirth was going to get tougher for women and work was going to suck a little more for men. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of a thought there. But thinking about retirement, if you're not good with money, hang out with someone who is good with money. Like if you're terrible with budgeting, self-control with money, like not spending when you shouldn't, like hang out with someone who's got that down. Be a serial saver. Have a goal. I think a huge key is like you're a lot more likely to end like you planned if you have a plan. And kind of think about where you want your life to head. Financially, I think is wise, and we should do that. I'm actually thinking about leading I do love that kind of stuff, and I'm thinking about leading a small group on financial peace. It's kind of like just a little, so small groups, life change happens there. But yeah, if you're interested in getting some more financial tips, stuff in that arena, definitely let me know and get in on that this fall. One thought I had this week, just kind of thinking of my parents, empty nesting and kind of moving towards that season of life, is like don't be afraid to downsize. After the kids move out, thinking back to our old house on Shasta Drive, it was like 5 bedrooms up there. We call it like the barracks hallways, like bedroom. It was like crazy, man. It was just like straight shot, all the rooms off to the side. But they're now in a 2-bedroom condo, so way easier on the electric bill, easier on the mortgage, and you don't have to take care of the outside of the house. So just a thought, sometimes you see, parents, with all the kids out, but they still got the huge house. It's like, it's a lot cheaper to have a condo or something. So I know there's a lot of memories there, and that can be tough, but it was just a thought I had this week. And I was talking to my dad too. I was like, yeah, Dad, so what's the key on retirement? Not that you're ever going to retire, but he was like, one thought he had was like, you got so much more time, at the end of your life, a lot of times, not always, but sometimes. And, invest that in prayer. Invest it obviously in your spouse as well. Hobbies are great. Doing things together. You got some more time to do that after the kids move out. But invest in prayer and deepen that relationship with the Lord. Not that we shouldn't pray when we're younger. I'm here 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. We got our prayer small group. Another small group plug there. But invest more time in the Lord and crying out for people, souls, the lost, your neighbors, your family, people who know the Lord, people who don't. And, just like when we're younger, a lot of times we got more energy, and when we're older, a lot of times we got more time. So to kind of know what season you're in, what you should invest in, and just knowing the season, I think is huge. Seasons, it shifts the way we live life. Don't be afraid to move on to your next season if that's where you're at. Also, don't miss the season you're in as well. So I think human nature, it can be easy to look back at the good old days, or I can't wait till I get here, or I can't wait till I get there. It's like, forget that. Like, it's good to look ahead and be excited about the future, but at the same time, especially I feel like in the American culture, man, it's all about, oh, I can't wait till I get a girlfriend. I can't wait till I get married. I can't wait till I have kids. It's like you're always wishing you were somewhere else, but be excited about where God has you today. And I think that's so crucial. And like, look ahead, that's fine, but love where you're at as well, because God put you there, and He has stuff that He wants you to learn where you're at right now. Ecclesiastes 11 verse 8 says, "So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all, but let him remember that the days of darkness will be many." And this is kind of an interesting verse. Like, I read it, I was kind of like, that's kind of funky. But, rejoice in them all, I think, is the huge takeaway there. Like, there's going to be tough parts of every season in our lives, and we're going to grow through those, and that's a good thing. A lot of times we grow the most through the tougher times. But again, learn to enjoy the season you're in. Learn to see the good, why God has you there. And there's life in every season, with God in it, and we can find it there. And God's just shaping you into the person that He wants you to be. Let's just pray as we wrap up here today. God, we just thank You so much for, God, the different seasons in our lives, God. And we got to learn, God, Your ways for each one. God, whether we're single, God, whether we're married, whether we have kids, whether we're approaching retirement, God, wherever season we're in, God, I pray that we would learn to see, God, just You in each one, God, that we wouldn't be so focused on getting to the next season that we miss the current season that we're at. And God, we're just so grateful for who You are and that You're with us, God, in each season of our lives. If you guys just don't mind leaving your heads bowed for just one more prayer. If you're here today and you're saying to yourself, man, I don't have this God in my life, this Jesus guy that we've been talking about, and I want Him. I need Him to get through these different seasons of life. If that's you, if you could just slip your hand up, I'd love for us to pray all together and just invite Him into our hearts. But if that's you, just slip your hand up and back down for a second. We're all going to pray together. I'm not going to single you out in any way. Awesome. Let's just all pray this prayer together. Jesus, thank You that You died for me on that cross. I give my life to You. I repent of my sins, and I'm just grateful for who You are. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Come on with that. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. It's great having you, and enjoy your week. God bless.
Yeah.